I'm going to read some solution. So this is 1.6. I'll read something very interesting. This is about Narada Muni's story. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Okay. Sutta Uvacha Evam Nishamya Bhagavan Devarshe Janma Karma Cha Bhuya Papachyatam Brahman Vyasa Satyavati Sutaha. Translation. Sutta said, O Brahmanas, thus hearing all about Sri Narada's birth and activities, Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God and son of Satyavati, inquired as follows. Purport. Vyasadeva was further inquisitive to know about the perfection of Naraji, and therefore he wanted to know about him more and more. In this chapter, Naraji will describe how he was able to have a brief audience with the Lord, where he was absorbed in the transcendental thought of separation from the Lord, and when it was very painful for him. Vyasa uvacha bhikshu vipravasite vigyana deshvistava vartamano vasya sadde tatah kimakarod bhavan. Sri Vyasadeva said, what did you, Narada, do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? You know this, no? How the Narada became fortunate by having association of Bhakti Vedantis that comes. You know this story, right? You don't know. I remember, do you know how Narada boy he got the association of Bhakti Vedantist? You've heard about that past name?
No, Prabhu.
Oh, you also don't know? Oh, really? Okay. Okay, fine. I'll read this one. This is after he gets the association of Bhakti Vedantas for 4 months. Then what happened that we are discussing right now. But I will maybe take next time that later portion, previous portion also. So this that okay. Then he says, O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation, and how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? Sri Ramani in his previous life was just an ordinary maid servant's son. So how he became so perfectly transformed into a spiritual body of eternal life, bliss and knowledge is certainly important. Sri Vyasadeva desired him to disclose the facts of everyone's satisfaction. O great, say the time and relates everything in due course. O great sage, the time and relates everything in due course. So how is it that the subject matter which happened prior to this day of Brahma is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? So, who's inquiring? Yes. Vyasadeva to Narada Muni. As the spirit soul is not annihilated even after annihilation of the material body, it's also spiritual consciousness not annihilated. Sri Narada developed this spiritual consciousness when he had this material body in the previous kalpa. Consciousness of the material body means spiritual consciousness expressed through the medium of the material body. This consciousness is inferior, indestructible, and perverted, but super consciousness of the supra mind on the spiritual plane is as good as the spirit soul and is never annihilated. One kalpa means like one day of Brahma. Sri Narada said, the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. In his previous life, when Naradi was impregnated with spiritual knowledge by the grace of the great sages, there was a tangible change in his life, although he was only a boy of 5 years. That is an important symptom visible after initiation by the Buddha and his spiritual master. Actual association of devotees brings about a quick change in life for spiritual realization. See, actual association of devotees brings about a quick change in life for spiritual realization. You got quick change in your life. You got association of devotees. That means. How it's so acted upon the previous life of Sri Narada Muni is described by and by in this chapter. So tangible change should be seen. So this is an important symptom of visible after initiation by the bona fide spiritual master. And he says, I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a single woman, but a maid servant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection. She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. This world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. Hmm. Like in this world, sometimes somebody is born in a rich family, and so much is taken care. So much of pampering, everything is done. And sometimes somebody is born in a poor family, and even the parents want to take care of many things, but they can't. So this is how we are helpless. Sometimes you may be surrounded by people who are praising you, glorifying you, appreciating you. Sometimes you may be surrounded by people who are demonic in nature, like they are like Vibhishan, Prahlad. So these kind of situations are beyond us. So the Supreme Lord is in control. When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent influenced by supreme time. Purport. There is a way of dragging sincere soul nearer to God. Wow. What is the point? Saying this is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. The poor boy was being looked after only by his affectionate mother. And yet the mother was taken from the world by the supreme will in order to put him completely at the mercy of the Lord. Amazing. Then he says, I took this as a special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotee, and so thinking I started for the north. Purport. Confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. It's amazing, no? So confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. Today I was thinking how we should see every situation of our life being directed by the Lord. Like sometimes we think that, oh, this happened because of this thing, because of that thing. So many things we keep thinking. But like say somebody acts in a certain way with you, then you can think, oh, Radha Gopi Vallabha is acting to that person like this. So some people in your life will encourage you, appreciate you, correct? Some people will be neutral in your life. Some people will be negative towards you in your life. No? So like the different kind of people will be there. So now how you're going to see that? Aslishya pinastumam adarshanam marmatam karotuva tatata vavidadati lamputo mata prananathastu saiva naparaha. So he says in that verse that, no Lord, whatever way you act with me, I'm simply your servant. So now Lord is in control of everyone and everything. Nobody can speak a word without sanction of the Lord. So he's in control. So now you can think like this. Lord only is acting to this person like this person like that, this person like that. So it may not be literally like Lord is acting through that, but Lord is sanctioning. So we can see like that because he's in control of the Lord. So okay, in that situation where everybody is against you or people are criticizing you, then how can you serve? That you should think, ask. Like Prahlad, everybody was against him. But he was thinking, how should I serve the Lord? Same way, the situation where everybody is praising you, appreciating you, doing balle balle for you. That situation also you should think, how should I serve? So this we should always keep. So we are not enjoyer of our situations. We are actually servants in all our situations of life. We don't have to enjoy any situation coming up in our life, but we should try to serve in all situations of life. So when we are having enjoying mood, then some favorable situation comes, we become very happy. And when we are enjoying mood, unfavorable situation comes, we become very sad. Because the point is we are trying to enjoy our situations. So we should not, so we have to give up that mood. Then you can be happy in all situations of life. Because in every situation of life, you're only thinking, how can I best serve? The confidential devotees of the Lord see in every step a benedictory direction of the Lord. What is considered to be an odd? I'm speaking, but I'm also trying to remind myself and see how we can follow in our life these things, these principles. What is considered to be an odd or difficult movement in the mundane sense is accepted as special mercy of the Lord. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever, and by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished. What is considered to be an odd or difficult movement in the mundane sense is accepted as a special mercy of the Lord. Mundane prosperity is a kind of material fever. And by the grace of the Lord, the temperature of this material fever is gradually diminished. And spiritual health is obtained step by step. Mundane people misunderstand it. Okay. After my departure, I passed through many flourishing metropolis, towns, villages, animals, farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, and natural forests. Purport: man's activities in agriculturing, mining, farming, industries, gardening, etc., were all on the same scale as they are now, even previous to the present creation, and the same activities will remain as they are, even the next creation. After many hundreds of millions of years, when creation is started by the law of nature, and the history of the universe repeats itself practically in the same way. The mundane wranglers waste time with archaeological excavation without searching out into the vital necessities of life. After getting an impetus in his spiritual life, Srinadmuni, even though a mere child, did not waste time for a single moment with economic development. Although he passed towns and villages, mines, and industries, he continually went on to a progressive spiritual emancipation. Srimad Bhagavatam is the repetition of history which happened some hundreds of millions of years ago, as it was said herein before. And the most important factors of history are picked up to be recorded in this transcendental literature. So devotee is not so much concerned about economic development. This is another point Prabhupada is beginning out. So the devotee is only concerned about going back to Godhead. That's the only thing what he wants to do in his life. So he is very focused. I pass through hills and mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and through tracts of land with reservoirs of water filled with beautiful lotus flowers, fit for the denizens of the heaven, and decorated with bewildered bees and singing birds. Mm. Mm. I then passed alone through many forests of rushes, bamboo, reeds, sharp grass, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through alone. I visited deep, dark, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals. Purport. It is the duty of the mendicant, Kacharya, to experience all varieties of God's creation by traveling alone through all forests, hills, towns, villages, etc. You want to put something? You can take that. No, it's cold, no? Okay. Maybe a little. Down. God's creation by traveling alone through the forest, hills, towns, villages, etc. To gain faith in God and strength of mind, as well as to enlighten the inhabitants with the message of God. You see, when we travel alone, or when we travel without having so much of certainty that where we are going, what we are going to eat, so this kind of life can actually help us to develop more faith in God. I remember we would go to Dindi, Dehu to Pandharpur. So amazing. We did not know where we'll be sleeping next. It was like that. That was very good, very faith giving, because you can see that how Krishna is protecting, Krishna is maintaining, Krishna is making all arrangements. You can see that. So our strength of mind increases to gain faith in God and strength of mind, as well as to enlighten the inhabitants with the message of God. So three things will happen. You gain faith in God, your strength of mind will increase, and you also get the opportunity to enlighten people with the message of God. A sannyasi is duty bound to take all this risk without fear. And the most typical sannyasis are the present age of Lord Chaitanya, who travel in the same manner through the central Indian jungles, enlightening even the tigers, bears, snakes, deer, elephants, and many other jungle animals. In this age of Kali, sannyas is forbidden for ordinary men. One who changes his dress to make propaganda in a different man from the original. One who changes his dress to make a propaganda is a different man from the original ideal sannyasi. One should, however, take the vow to stop social intercourse completely and devote life exclusively to the service of the Lord. The change of dress is only a formality. Lord Chaitanya did not accept the name of sannyasi, and in this age of Kali, so-called sannyasis should not change their former names. Following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. In this age, the devotional service of hearing and repeating the holy glories of the Lord is strongly recommended. And one who takes the vow of renunciation of family life need not imitate the Parivadikacharya like Narada. Like Narada or Lord Chaitanya, but may sit down at some holy place and devote his whole time and energy to hear and repeatedly chant the holy scriptures. That was a great acharya like Justice Goswami Vrindavan. Okay, next verse. Just traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally. And I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took bath in the lake, and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. A traveling mendicant can meet the needs of the body, namely thirst and hunger, by the gifts of nature, without being a beggar at the doors of the householders. The mendicant therefore does not go to the house of a householder to beg, but to enlighten him spiritually. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree, in an unlimited forest, I began to meditate upon the super soul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from the Buddhist souls. One should not meditate according to one's personal whims. One should know perfectly well from the authoritative sources of scriptures through the transparent medium of bona fide spiritual master, and by proper use of one's trained intelligence, for meditating upon the super soul dwelling within every living being. This consciousness firmly developed by a devotee who has rendered loving service unto the Lord by carrying out the orders of the spiritual master is amazing. See what he says. One should know perfectly well from the authoritative scriptures of authoritative sources of scriptures through the transmitted medium of bona fide spiritual master and by proper use of one's trained intelligence for meditating upon the super soul dwelling within every living being. This consciousness is firmly developed by a devotee who has rendered loving service unto the Lord by carrying out the orders of the spiritual master. Sri Naraji contacted bona fide spiritual masters, served them sincerely, and got enlightenment rightly. Thus he began to meditate. So our meditation can become successful if we serve the orders of Guru, orders of spiritual master nicely. Then he says, as soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the Lord, within my mind transformed in transcendental love. With my mind transformed in transcendental love. Tears rolled down from my eyes. And without delay, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna appeared on the lotus of my heart. Purport. The word bhava is significant here. This bhava stage is attained after one has transcendental affection for the Lord. The first initial stage is called Shraddha, or a liking for the Supreme Lord. And in order to increase that liking, one has to associate with pure devotees of the Lord. The third stage is to practice the prescribed rules and regulations of devotional service. This will dissipate all sorts of misgivings and remove all personal deficiencies that hamper progress in devotional service. So first is Shraddha. And then when he increases that liking, one has to associate with the pure devotees. And the third is the practice prescribed, and that is called Bhajani Kriya. This will dissipate all sorts of misgivings. It's called Anartha Nivritti. When all misgivings and personal deficiencies are removed, there is a standard faith in the transcendental matter, and the taste for it increases in greater proportion, called Nishtha, and then it's called Ruchi. This stage leads to attraction, it's called Asakti. And after this, there is Bhava, then Bhava, or the prior stage of another love for God. So Shraddha, Atha Shraddha Sadhu Sangha, then Anartha Nivritti, then Nishtha, Ruchi, and Asakti, then Bhava, then Prem. Like that, 9 stages are there. When the mind is such as, so all the above different stages are but different stages of development of transcendental love. When the mind is surcharged with transcendental love, there comes a strong feeling of separation. Which leads to 8 different kinds of ecstasies. Tears from the eyes of a devotee are an automatic reaction. And because Sri Narmuni, in his previous birth, attained that stage very quickly after his departure from home, it was quite possible for him to perceive the actual presence of the Lord, which is tangibly experienced by his developed spiritual senses without material touch. Then he says, "O Vyasdev, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could see neither myself nor the Lord." Says spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasies have no mundane comparison. Therefore, it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. We can just have a glimpse of such ecstasy in the words of Sri Narmuni. Each and every part of the body or senses has its particular function. After seeing the Lord, all the senses became fully awakened to render service unto the Lord, because in the liberated state, the senses are fully efficient in serving the Lord. As in that transcendental ecstasy, it so happened that the senses became separately enlivened to serve the Lord. This being so, Narad Muni lost sight of both himself and Lord simultaneously. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire, and once erases all mental incongruities. While losing sight of that form, I suddenly got up, being picked up as is usual, and one loses that which is desirable. Can you read this report? Just take some Vicks kind of.
That the Lord is not formless is experienced by Narada Muni, but his form is completely different from all forms of our material experience. For the whole duration of our life, we go on seeing different forms in the material world, but none of them is just appropriate to satisfy mind. Nor can anyone, uh, for the whole duration of our life, we go on seeing different forms in the material world, but for the whole duration of our life, we go on seeing different forms in the material world, but none of them is just appropriate to satisfy the mind.
अच्छा okay.
Satisfy the mind. Not can anyone of them vanish by all perturbance of the mind. These are the special features of the transcendental form of the Lord, and one who has once seen that form is not satisfied with anything else. No form in the material world can any longer satisfy the seer.
Achha, the whole we go on seeing different forms, but none of them is just have to satisfy the mind, nor can any one of them vanish out perturbance of the mind. Correct. Especially which are the transcendental form of the mind. One who has once seen that form is not satisfied with anything else. No form in the material world can any longer satisfy the seer. That means all chase for seeing so many beautiful forms of this world will go away.
Yeah, that the Lord is formless or impersonal means that he has nothing like a material form and is not like any material personality. As spiritual beings having an eternal relationship with the transcendental form of the Lord, we are life after life. We are life after life searching for that form of the Lord, and we are not satisfied by any form of material present. Narada Muni got a glimpse of that most desirable form, but having lost sight of it again, he became perturbed and stood up all of a sudden to search it out. What we desire life after life was obtained by Narada Muni, and losing sight of him again was certainly a great shock for him.
So soul has a natural attachment for the form of the Lord. Can see that. 1.6.19. I desire to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view that form again, I could not see him anymore. And thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. So there is no mechanical process to see the form of the Lord. It can completely depend on the causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The sun rises on his own accord. So also the Lord is pleased to be present out of his causeless mercy. One should simply await the opportune moment, and Lord could be seen again by the same mechanical process. Wait. One should simply wait for the opportune moment and go on discharging his prescribed duty in devotional service of the Lord. Narmini thought that the Lord could be seen again by the same mechanical process, which was successful in the first attempt. But in spite of his utmost endeavor, he could make the second attempt successful. The Lord is completely independent of all obligations. We can simply be bound up by the tie of unalloyed devotion, nor is he visible or perceivable by our material senses. When he pleases, being satisfied with a sincere attempt or devotional service by one depending completely on the mercy of the Lord, then he may be seen out of his own accord. Very nice footprint is also. एवं यतन्तं विजने मामाह गोचरो गिरां गंभीरलक्षणया वाचा शुचा प्रशमयन्यन्निव. Can you call him our Chaitanya Prabhu? Who's Chaitanya Prabhu? No? When he was seeing my attempts in that lonely place, the personality of God had was transcended to all mundane reception, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words, just to mitigate my grief. Purport. The Vedas it said that God is beyond the approach of mundane words and intelligence. And yet, by his causeless mercy, one can have stable senses to hear him or to speak to him. This is Lord's inconceivable energy. One upon whom his mercy is bestowed can hear him. The Lord was much pleased with Narada Muni, and therefore the necessary strength was invested to him in so that he could hear the Lord. It is not, however, possible for others to perceive directly the touch of the Lord during the probationary stage of regulative devotion service. So the special gift for Narada. When he heard the pleasing words of the Lord, the feelings of suppression were to some extent mitigated. A devotee in love with God feels always the pangs of suppression, and therefore always enwrapped in transcendental ecstasy. Oh Narada, the Lord said, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. What?
The personality of Godhead is described in the Bhagavad Gita as the most pure, the supreme, and the absolute truth. There is no trace of a tinge of materiality in his person, and thus one who has the slightest sting of material affection cannot approach him. The beginning of devotional service starts from the point when one is freed from at least two forms of material modes, namely the mode of passion and mode of ignorance. Then one is in the remaining mode of nature, goodness. The result is exhibited by the signs of being freed from calm, lust, and low covetousness. Covetousness. That is to say, no one must be free. That is to say, one must be freed from the desires for sense satisfaction and avarice for sense gratification. And to be completely free from all material changes is to become free from the mode of goodness also. To search the audience of God is in a lonely forest considered to be in the mode of goodness. One can go out into the forest to attain spiritual perfections, but that does not mean that one can see the Lord personally there. One must be completely free from all material attachment and be situated on the plane of transcendence, which alone will help the devotee get in personal touch with the personality of Godhead. The best method is that one should live at a place where the transcendental form of the Lord is worshipped. The temple of the Lord is a transcendental place, whereas the forest is materially good habitation. A neophyte devotee is always recommended to worship the deity of the Lord, Archana, rather than go in the forest to search out the Lord. Devotional service begins from the process of Archana, which is better than going out in the forest. In the present life, which is completely free from all material hankerings, Sri Narad Muni does not go into the forest, although he can turn every place into Vaikunth by his presence only. He travels from one planet to another to convert men, gods, spinners, Gandharvas, Rishis, Munis, and all others to become devotees of the Lord. By his activities, he has engaged many devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, and many others in the transcendental service of the Lord. A pure devotee of the Lord therefore follows in the footsteps of the great devotees like Narad and Prahlad and engages his whole time in glorifying the Lord by the process of Kirtana. Such a preaching process is transcendental to all material qualities.
Yeah, very nice, no? This picture also. Beautiful. So Narad Muni does not go into the forest, although he can turn every place into Vaikuntha by his parents only. Yes. You're going to preach everywhere. Oh, virtuous one. We have only one seed in a person, and this is just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires. A living being cannot be vacant of all desires. He is not dead stone. He must be working, thinking, feeling, and willing. But when he thinks, feels, and wills materially, then what does it mean? He becomes entangled. And conversely, when he thinks, feels, and wills for the service of the Lord, he becomes gradually freed from all entanglement. The more the person is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it. So you're thinking about giving them Gita to others. That is really liberating. Thinks, feels, and wills for the service of the Lord. He becomes gradually freed from all entanglement. The more a person is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it. If you are not hankering for Lord, then you are not engaging also. Engage, then you will get a more hankering for the Lord. There is the transcendental nature of godly service. Material service has satiation, where spiritual service, the Lord has neither satiation nor end. One can go on increasing his hankering for the loving transcendental service of the Lord, and yet he will not find satiation or end. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendently. Amazing. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendently. Therefore, seeing the Lord means being engaged in his service, because his service and his person are identical. The sincere devotee should go on with sincere service of the Lord. The Lord will give proper direction as to how and where it has to be done. There was no material desire in Narada, and yet just to increase his intense desire for the Lord, he was so advised. Very nice purport. And go on increasing his hankering for service, not find hankering. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendently. Therefore, seeing the Lord means engage in his service. Somewhere else we read this, no? And service and his person are identical. Somewhere we read it recently. And then we should go on with the service of the Lord. अभी बहुत पावरफुल पॉइंट आने वाले हैं और चलो चलते हैं बिल्कुल 35 कितना है तो रूम क्लीन रखा तो फील वेरी गुड टू रीड एंड तो चाहे बहुत अच्छा लगता है हाँ आंखों को भी सुकून मिलता है और कंफर्ट भी फील होता है further you can read nice it's because goodness no you can read here everything you can read आपको क्या लगता है यार देख के सब अच्छा है हाँ ये तो फिर बैठने का भी वैरायटी होता है एंड और क्या और कंफर्ट क्या बोला और कंफर्ट क्या बताया कंफर्ट हाँ actually mode of goodness is very much required to be able to focus on audio मतलब it becomes easy it's not mandate but it's easy bhakti can be done anytime but mode of goodness is very so cleanness is mode of goodness